Built. Oh, this is Rainer's turn.
Yeah.
Build different.
Yeah.
He wanted to see how my TVC was.
I have actually never seen Rainer's town.
He's
I mean,
Interesting.
he's pretty good. I
still
think he's
like,
yeah.
yeah, he's still like 1.3k above me at least.
Yeah, he's like 6'3" or something. I think with turn 6'4" maybe.
Okay, that's actually way more.
That's a lot.
He's even higher with Protoss.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So, talk a bit about what happened this game.
I think I just like my early game was okay up to a point, but then I just lost control. I feel
Okay.
kind of just out. Like, feel like I think my creep wasn't that good, and like then I just at one point I think I just overdroned.
Yep. We'll see. Okay. Your early game build order looks good. Yeah, again, I think this is something I talked about before with you a few times. Isn't that is when you go for this early third base, you should stop mining gas. Just because
Yeah.
it's not worth it to have the drone back here for so long. And if you want to start it before speed, you see how much gas you're floating, right, for so long.
So 0 guys, I guess.
No, just
I
Pull it
missed
sooner,
that.
like at 60 gas or something.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So basically, when this drone finishes and goes to the natural, like right now, you can just pull out 2 more guys out of gas.
Yeah, because you only need it for the Hellions.
Yeah, exactly.
I missed a little bit.
Yeah. So, but like, it's fine to do this if you want to get the earlier speed, but then you might as well just let your drone mine in the natural and walk down the queen to the third base to take it later. Yeah.
I did still not take a link speed before the third.
Yeah, that makes it even worse,
But
right? Because now you mined all this gas is just kind of sitting here, where those drones could have mined minerals this entire time, right? So yeah.
And then I was a bit late to take my third. I was just focusing on the links.
Yeah. Yes, definitely very important that you. Well, you should go either way, right? Either you go link speed before third base, or you go third, but then you pull out of gas. And then the important thing when you're dealing with this Reaper is it's important to focus on microing your links, sure, but you should also be focusing on your money, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. It's actually like it's not the end of the world if you lose a link here or not, as long as you're macroing behind it properly. Then it's definitely like worth it to lose a link.
Yeah.
So yeah, just make sure you start your third base on time, you start your third queen on time, you spend your larva, that sort of thing. Then it's completely fine to lose a link or so. And like as you get better, your control will get better as well, and your multitasking will get better, so you can just do both, right? But when you have to prioritize in a situation like this, always go with the macro, especially like in small unimportant engagement like this, right? Like the game isn't gonna change if you lose a Sterling or not. So
yeah.
All right. Let's see what happened here.
I think I just forgot not to have my links next to the tomb.
So personally, I wouldn't put this Overlord here. I would put it in the dead space. What do you think, sort of? Because many times Marines comes and kills my Overlord.
Well, as long as it's close enough to like the pillar, right there, then it's fine. Like as long as you can get there before the Marines can kill your Overlord. In this case, when it's already low, I would probably just keep it in the dead space or something. Me personally, like I keep it on the pillar next to the natural, but having it over here is completely fine too. Yeah, just you can be pretty like open with your Overlord positioning as long as you're staying like within the range of a pillar, right? So you have somewhere to run to if a Marine comes. Yeah, so let's see what happened here. Did you see the Reaper? Yeah, you saw the Reaper. Yeah, just a little bit out of position with the links. Yeah, if the links started down here, you should probably be able to keep this alive. Also, your third queen was pretty late, actually. Let's see what happened here. Yeah, so like ideally your third queen would start like right now. Yeah, you have a little bit less money because you didn't put out gas, right? And you had this one AFK drone in the third base the entire time.
Yeah, but I make the overlord first, right?
Well, I usually you do third queen on 31 supply and then overlord right after that on 33. That's usually the way you do it when you
Right.
go for fast third. So
Personally, I don't think it's important to get that overload in time because you can do extractor trick with 2 geysers, so you can be supply putting at the third queen faster. I don't know.
no, you don't really want to do this extractor trick because then you're wasting mining time and you're also losing minerals when you cancel the extractors, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's still
like
fine
if
to.
you get supply blocked, if
Yeah.
you forget.
Yeah, but like you should start the third queen. Basically, like as soon as the first queen national finishes, you want to be starting the third queen right away. So like right here, it should be starting right away. Like if you pulled out a gas earlier and this turn wasn't sitting behind the third base for so long, then you would have more money, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, because ideally you do this, and then here your third queen should like almost be finished, or pretty soon it should be finished. So here you can kind of decide if the Reaper is threatening your tumors, you can wait for the second queen to finish and bring it down, and then put the tumors down with 2 queens, or you can like here, like if you use your links properly, it probably doesn't die anyways, right? But let's say that you lost like a Zergling or 2 to the Reaper, the others are pretty low, and he's still threatening, like he has high HP Reaper that's threatening your tumor, right? You can wait here for the second queen to finish and then just put the tumors down with 2 queens. But yeah, in this situation, you should probably just zone with the queen, bring the links down, at the same time as you put the tumor down, and you should be fine. But it's not the end of the world to lose this tumor, to be honest. It's fine, but yeah, ideally it doesn't happen. Because it's gonna slow down your creep speed quite a bit towards the mid game. And you mentioned this game that you felt like your creep speed wasn't what it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could have more queens out.
Yeah. And ideally
Waves
you would
of it.
start the fourth queen in the main here as soon as possible as well.
Yeah.
So as soon as you have the money for it before, yeah, at least at 42 supply. And then so like now you should have 2 queens in production. And if your third hatch was on time, you would have a third queen in production as well. So like right here, there should be 3 queens in production. And you're almost an entire queen behind just because how late your third queen was, right?
Yeah.
So ideally right now, yeah, you would have 3 queens out with 3 more on the way.
Yeah.
So you're going up to 6.
Pretty.
Okay, you get the Bangness. Okay, so this Bangness is way too early.
Yeah.
For what you're up against. So if we get the night like this, we need to try to get a link out to scout. That's also why I like the Overload in the natural, because you can always get some information from it, right? Even if it gets slow like this. But yeah, here you need to try to get a Zerling out around the map, like starting already now, because you want to get some information before 4 minutes. Like by 4 minutes is the time where we want to start making splitting off depending on what we see, right? So you get a Zerling in, you see a 3cc, then you know you don't need to get a queen number 7. You don't need to get a Bellingness right away. So stuff like that, right? Like basically your games should look the same no matter what up until the 4th minute mark. And here's when we're gonna start diverting from that standard path depending on what we scout, right?
Yeah.
So here if you knew it was a 3cc build, you would still make these 2 queens, but you would not need Bellingness so early. You could be droning a lot harder. I mean, you should be droning either way. But
yeah.
But yeah. Maybe we slightly overmade Zerglings here as well, because we're kind of blind, right? There is 6 Hellions, but we didn't know that right until soon. We only have seen 2 Hellions in the Reaper, and this could have been like 2 Hellions into 2-1-1, right? Stuff like that. In which case we don't want to be making too many Zerglings. but it's fine. Liberator. Yeah, and spore timing as well. Something we could get some from scouting. If we know it's 3cc, then you wouldn't need to get the spores until like 445 to 450. If it's a 2cc build, you want to start your spores at like right here. At least 2 spores. Like 1 on each side, and then if there's no liberator coming, or if you get the scout that it's Banshee, you need to move your spores into your mineral lines, and most likely get a 3rd spore as well, right? Depending on what you're going for, how fast your layers and stuff like that. But yeah, in 3 versus 3cc, you can get them at like 445 to 450. If they go Viking first, then you can get them even later. And versus 2cc, you can get them at 425 to 430. And if you see a Viking, you can get them like 20 seconds later, like 25 seconds later even.
Yeah, this lip kind of just caught me off guard.
Yeah. So let's see.
I feel like at this point it was just like, I don't know.
Yeah. So at this point, it's very nice to have your inject queens hotkey, right? Because now, like, right now you have a hotkey with all your creep queens, I assume, the number 6.
Yeah.
Number 6. So here at this point, it's very nice to have a hotkey with your inject queens as well, because that means you can just press that hotkey and use those queens to deal with this liberator, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, if we had a spore here, that would help out as well. But yeah, like, in this case, if you just instantly pull the natural queen, move this main queen out of the circle, you're completely fine, right? And you can just keep droning. You're getting some extra Zerglings, which you need. That's good. Maybe a little bit of an overreaction, but it's fine, to be honest. You should expect him to do a run by here, so yeah, just having that hotkey for the inject queens is very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, already in this game you're quite far behind just because you played 7 queen early Baning Nest versus a 3cc build.
Yeah, I was kind of being too safe.
Yeah, and yeah, not really scouting properly. So like if you knew what was happening here, you would want to go 6 queen, Baning Nest like 430, and just get your 4th hatch up as early as possible after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, this queen did a lot of damage. Killed 2 queens, or this liberator killed 2 queens, bunch of drones. Yeah, so at this point you're basically like, yeah, you're super far behind. You were behind only from the openers, and then you also took damage from his opener, which means you're even further behind, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
So yeah, from this point on, the only way to come back for you is to play Lingbane Queen of like 4 gas, right? Because that's the one style you can play with a lower drone count. Because when you're behind like this, you're never gonna get up to like, let's say 75, 80 drones before his first big push, right?
Yeah. I think I tried that, but it's too late then. I'm just
yeah. So like usually what you end up going for when you get behind like this is just playing on Lingbane Queen on like 4 gas, because then you can keep a slightly lower drone count, and you can try to do counter attacks and stuff like that, or like try to crush his push and stuff like that to come back into the game, right? You need to get some momentum back in your favor.
Oh no, not the queen.
Yeah. So at this point, what you should do is just get more queens in production, get your 4th hatch up as fast as possible. Make sure you get the upgrades going. You're missing an evo.
Yeah.
Which is a bit rough. But yeah, like I said, you're already really far behind here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the one play we do is just mass Queen Lingbane, try to defend with Ling or Queen Baneling, and do a like big Ling counter attacks. That's like the one way you can come back, right?
Yeah, I think my overall macro is just off as well.
Yeah. Yeah, like so
I'm supply talking a lot, not using my larva and stuff.
Yeah, so like your setup right now would be really good if this was an even game, right? Like you have 80 drones, you have Hydroden finished, you have Baneling Speed finished, you have 1-1 on the way. Like this would be a good setup if you're in an even game. But like now,
Yeah.
since you're so far behind, it's just gonna be so hard to hold on versus this push. That being said, like if you do somehow hold on, like you get lucky with a couple of baiting hits or something like that, then you're back in the game all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also really important that you focus your creep spread in the right areas on the maps. So like in this map, for
Yeah,
example,
so,
the early fights are always gonna be in this area, right?
uh-huh.
So this is the area where you wanna focus your creep spread the most in
Yeah,
the early
maybe
game.
kill the rock and stuff.
Because yeah, this is where you're gonna fight. This is where you want your creep spread. Obviously, you're gonna keep spreading in the other directions as well, but you just want to put more tumors in this direction, right?
Yeah.
And let your initial tumors go in this direction as well. And yeah, something you also want to like, you should expect by like 6:30, you should be expecting the first 2 medevacs to come soon. So at this point, you need to start sending out some spoiler links. You already have one link out, which is good, but you kind of want something just to see exactly where the medevacs are and like exactly when they're coming, so you can be in position to defend properly.
Yeah.
Something on this map as well, and maybe like Death Aura as well, is also getting a second spore in the main base is very nice, because they're almost always gonna go for a drop into the main base after they pushed your.
Yeah, with the dead
force.
airspace. It's kind of obvious.
So on maps like that, it's always worth it to get a second spore in the main base like that, because it really helps shut down those kinds of.
Would you put both over the 4th, or one where the minor line is and one at the 4th?
I would put like one right here and then one like there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
And
yeah.
I've kind of already lost this game. Like I have nothing prepared.
Yeah, exactly. And you were out of position as well because we didn't have vision for this coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but let's say you were going for the Ling Bang Queen style instead, right? Then you would maybe have 9 queens or so at this point, 9-10 queens, and you can pull them all to the front. You could have these banelings that you're morphing. Right now, they could be done, and you could also have like 50 Zerglings out on the map, and on his side of the map, instead of like the Hydra and the drones you have mining on gas, for example, into these gases. Then you could have had a bunch of Zerglings out on the map, and you could have tried to do a counterattack. Obviously, this game is really well set up, but with the queen count that you have, and if you're in position, you shouldn't really take damage from only 2 medevacs, right? So
Yeah.
then that's fine. But yeah, like we said, what we talked about, really rough spot to start.
Yeah, and at this point it's already over. I have
Yeah.
a lower drone. Working up.
Yeah, at this point, the only thing you can really hope for is like some super good baiting hits to win you the game.
Like, would you rush into lurkers in this position, or try to? Because lurkers are like the fighting unit, right? The
Well,
comeback unit as well, in a way.
the thing is, you need to get the hive for the lurkers to be good, right? You don't want to make lurkers without the hive upgrades, and he's gonna try to punish you before hive. So usually that's why the Ling Bang Queen play is usually good, and you can just try to play very counterattack heavy while defending with Ling Queen, because you can pull that style off on a lower drone count, and then once you get some momentum back, like once a run by goes well, or once you clean up a push really easily, then you can drone it back up to 80, right? That was still good.
Yeah, so the main pointer was to just the early scouting and the sport timings and stuff.
Yeah.
Because after that, like, there's not much could have done.
Yeah. Most of this was just mostly early game. If you had like also the queen hotkey would help, right?
Yeah.
Because then you could probably still recover kind of nicely if you didn't take so much damage from the Liberator.
Yeah.
Alright, let's do one of your replays now.
So, I felt like I played perfectly. Besides, well, now when you talked about sport timings, like I didn't find much that I was doing wrong while in game.
Okay.
I felt like I was playing really good.
Okay, we'll see. Drone scouting. Let's see. So that's fine. On this map, if you want to drone scout, you need to go, or in general, if you want to drone scout, you should go pool before gases, because your pool is going to be a little bit delayed because of the drone that's out on the map, right?
Yeah.
And you would rather just have your pool on time than have your gas be on time, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you go pool first, especially on this map where the mineral layout is inefficient in the main base. You need it even faster, because like normally with a non-drone scouting build order on a normal map where the mineral layout is proper, your pool should start.
What is even wrong with the mineral layout?
Hmm?
What is wrong with the mineral layout?
Some of the mineral patches, some of the close mineral patches in the main base, I think it's the one to the top and the bottom, are too far away from the hatchery. Like you can see, like if you look at your two drones right now on the top.
Yeah.
Normally, whenever this drone is returning minerals, the other drone will already be mining, right?
Yeah.
You can see that it's not mining yet. So there's only two close mineral patches, the two in the middle here.
Yeah.
And normally on all the other maps, there's always four close mineral patches. But this map only has two, so you have less minerals. But yeah, like on a normal map with no drone scout, your pool would start right now. And on this map, it's already delayed, and because you're drone scouting, it's even later, right? So we can see it's like almost a full 6 seconds late, right?
Yeah. So
Yes.
I don't pull to the third because... Oh wait, I actually do. I think that was a misclick.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Because I see the SCV.
Yeah, so in this case, you just start your third queen faster. And you just walk this queen right away to the low ground, right? This is fine. I think the earlier third is probably more efficient overall. But this is like the way I would do it if there's, let's say, an SCV blocking my third or something like that. Then I would just do what you're doing right now. And there is an SCV blocking, so it makes complete sense. The only thing is just right here, start your overlord and third queen. And by the time the queen get to the third base, then you'll have the money for the hatchery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Actually, I usually start my queen. I don't know. Okay, it started in the main.
that's fine. I usually start in natural, but I don't think it makes a huge difference. I think the fourth queen is probably a mistake though, because now you see you can't afford your hatchery because of this fourth queen. And you didn't start an overlord, so yeah.
So the early game mess up.
Yeah, let's see here. So here everything is fine. So like, yeah, here's the point. So like right now, right away when this finishes, you should already have the third queen in production. And right now you just start on overlord, and then you start rolling again, right? You put this tumor down, and then you start walking to the third base. And then yeah, you don't start the fourth queen, you start the hatchery first, and then yeah, your overlord should be almost finished by now. You spend your larva, and then you make your fourth queen.
I realize I forgot everything. There's a little bit of nerves as well, I think, in this game. I don't really remember.
Yeah.
So it's, cool versus a big
That's
pro
fine.
player.
It's all good. Mistakes is what we're here for. That's the way we improve.
Yeah.
So yeah, so obviously like right now you had a pretty bad supply block, which is gonna hurt your economy pretty bad.
Evolution complete.
Let's see your link speed finishes. So like ideally you want to, especially when you open fast, or not especially, but like just in general, you want to get out a link speed as soon as you can, or a link out of the map as soon as you can, even before you have link speed, just so that you can run in right away when you get link speed, right? Like ideally I can't ping, but ideally your Ling is already in his third base right now.
I hear like there? Oh no, it doesn't ping.
Yeah, it doesn't work for some reason. But ideally your Ling is already in his third base right now, and then when speed finishes, you can just run straight in, right?
Yeah.
Like you just have to see which side is his Reaper on, and you just go to the other side, and your overlords will tell you, right, which side the Reaper is on. But yeah, here you come in. Your overlord scout comes in at the same time. In here, you should already know that it's a 3cc build, right? Because there's no supply depots in the natural. If he was playing
Yeah, supply depots by 4 minutes.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, if he's playing a 2cc, he would start the supply depots before 3:30 usually. So you should have like a second depot in production already. That should be like getting close to. The first one should be finished. The second one should be in production, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, if he was playing 3cc, he would start the first supply depot would just be starting right now.
Yeah, and I see if the gas at the natural. It's
Yeah.
even more of a time.
And you come in with the old intermediates as well, so you double confirm everything. You get to see there's no third gas. You get to see the starport. Yeah, so you get to see pretty much everything you'd want, except maybe the factory, but that doesn't really matter too much. You already saw, yeah, he had Hellions with the links, so you know exactly what's going on.
Now I'm seeing what I'm messing up here myself. I don't know how I missed this before. Like 3 people into gas this early? Maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see.
Is this early?
Yeah, now you should be putting back into gas right now. So this drone, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's good. But I would just rally instead of pulling drones from the main line, but that doesn't really matter. Like this drone that's being transferred right now, I would rally into the gas, and I would rally this ling that's being made into the main base. I would have made a drone and just rally that one into the gas.
Yeah.
But it's completely fine what you're doing. Yeah. A little bit late with starting the queens, maybe. Let's see here. Yeah, so now you would want to start your next queen in the main base here as fast as you can. It's like right now it should be starting. Especially since we have a slightly later third, right? It's very important that we hit our queen timings on the first 2 hatcheries. Because we have less queen production overall. And yeah, you want to get up. You always want to get up to 6 queens as fast as you can, right? So yeah, we know everything that's up. 12 Zerglings, that's fine. Yeah, your early game looks okay otherwise from the other than the things we talked about. Everything looks okay. Right now you would want to start a Baiting Nest just in case it's going for some sort of delayed Hellbat push, right? Like a 3cc Banshee Hellbat, or it could have been like, let's say he could have been doing like 2-1-1 with Hellions and after 3cc, and then he would hit like a stim Hellbat timing at like 5:30 or so.
Yeah.
So we would just want to make sure we have our Baiting Nest in time for that. Yeah, then you're free to choose here whatever you want to do. If you want to do lair or double evo, you do go lair route. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'm queuing up a Baiting Nest.
Yeah, a little bit late with the Baiting Nest, but this game is not gonna hurt. Yeah, you're getting up to the correct queen count. Yeah, here you should just be spending your Larva Thinker drones. You don't need to be making more starlings right now.
Yeah, he was diving on me, so I got a little bit panicked.
Yeah, but you need to in this situation look at what he has because if you see here,
2 Hellions. Why do I need to make more links?
yeah, you already have this Zergling count, right? So,
yeah.
And after you get on top of him here and you start attacking him like right now, you should know that you're gonna clean up this stuff, right? And you shouldn't lose much when you clean this up, which means that you need even less Zerglings overall, right? Yeah. So now you're fine. This could have been drones. So you should just be droning really hard right now. And starting your 4th hatch should be your focus. Make sure Crypto is going. Yeah, the 7th queen I would delay until after the 4th hatch when you're playing versus 3cc. There's no need to get a 7th queen this early in this case. Like the only time I would get this queen right now is if I was floating money. Like I had enough money to start my 4th hatch and I would end all my larva and then still had money left and I would start the queen, right?
Which is kind of the case.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But we also need to start our double evo as fast as we can. And one more thing I should mention is the way you're taking your gases here. When you're playing lair first, I like to always just get 1 extra gas when I start my lair. So like right here I would just get 1 more gas. Because that way it lines up so that you will have enough gas to start your bailing speed. When the lair is done, you will have enough gas to start an overseer, and shortly after that you'll have enough gas to start 1-1. So yeah, if you took 1 more gas right there, it would line up pretty well for you to start like your double evo right about now. like 515, 520, and that will line up for you to have 400 gas when everything finishes, right?
Yeah.
So you can see like your 1 gas mine 200 gas since you started your lair. And if you had one more this entire time, you would be you would have mined at least 150 from that. So that means you would be getting close to the 400 gas mark for what you need for to start everything.
So we're just a little bit late on anything.
Yeah, just a little bit late on the evos.
It's very oversaturated on the third.
Yeah, let's see what happened here with your saturation. Okay, because right now you have 15 minutes on the natural, that's fine. And now you're gonna hit full minute saturation on the third base, which is good. So yeah, like right now after you've finished minute saturating all your bases, now you want to be rerallying your hatches, right? Because now you don't want your drones to be running further than they need to, right? So
Yeah.
now each hatchery should be rallied to their own base, basically. And then you should take gases in the bases that you're gonna have the most drones in. So for example, in this case, I would take a gas in my main base and my natural or third. Just because you see how many larvae you have in the main base, so you can easily make 3 drones here, right into the gas. You don't have any larvae in the natural, so that's the one reason why I wouldn't take a gas in the natural right now, because you have no drones that's gonna finish that can go into these gases, right? So in this case, definitely the main base, and then probably like in the third base, 1 gas. But yeah, like because after you have your minute saturation, the way you want to do it is just rally from the larva directly into the gas, right? We don't want to be doing this when we're like transferring drones back and forth and sending drones from the natural hatchery to go into the third base gas and stuff like that, right? We want to have everything as efficient as possible and try to not break the 16 out of 16 saturation at all if you can avoid it. Yeah, and maybe your overall spread is a little bit missing a little bit, considering there was no Viking this game. Yeah, just in general, you want like, you have the 2 overlords, but you would want like 2 more in the middle, 1 to the behind your main base, or like, yeah, below your main base, and 1 to the left of your third base in the dead there.
You mean the airspace or like the 5th base?
Yeah, the airspace, basically. So you're missing 4 overlords here, right? Like 1 to the dead space behind the third base, 2 in the middle, and 1 to the right under your main base. Just to complete the circle of overlords, right? And obviously, like if there was a Viking in this game, you would just pull them back, right? But if there's no Viking, you really should take advantage of that to spread overload like this. Especially because that's gonna help your creep spread, right? And that means that you see these Hellions coming, your queens can already walk into position, which means that if I see the Hellions on the right side here, then I'm gonna be immediately using all my tumors on the left side, walk my queens to the right side to replace any tumors that get sniped, and as he rotates over to the left side, I make sure I spread my tumors on the right side and move my queens over to the left side, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, so you want to have vision so you can follow these guys around with your queens and spread creep wherever the Hellions are not, right? But yeah, so yeah, the biggest problem right now is that you're effectively not mining with like 8 of your drones. 8 of your drones are not really mining effectively. And you're also going to have to transfer them back and forth now, which is inefficient, right? We want to be mining properly here.
And now the big problem comes.
Yeah. That's something I also didn't talk about, is the spores. Especially since you saw the starport. You would want to start your spores around here. So ideally, if your build order goes correctly, if you're playing lair, then you make your lair here. You could even get your lair started a little bit earlier if you want to play lair first. You could start it around like 4:30, like here. So you could start your banelings in your lair right now. That would be fine. After that, you want to get your 4th hatch down as fast as possible, while you're spending all your larvae into drones. And then the next step is getting your spores, right? So like right now at like 4:45 to 4:50, somewhere here. If you look at his cloak timing and his second banshee timing, that means that his cloak is going to finish in 40 seconds. Spore takes a little bit less, but we have to account for, we didn't know for sure it's Banshee, right? So we have to account for if it was Liberator first and stuff like that. So we want to start our spores right now, because that way by the time a Liberator gets across the map, we will have spores ready, right? So like right now, 2 or 3 spores depending on how greedy you're feeling. I usually do 3, 1 in each base. And yeah, ideally your 4th hatch would already be started. So yeah. And if, let's say, your Overlord didn't die, and you see a Viking attacking your Overlord by, like if we look at this, a Viking would have finished already at this point.
Yeah.
So it will be hitting your Overlord in whatever it is, close to his base, right? And then you don't need to start the spores right away. Then you can delay them like another 20 seconds or so, 25 seconds. So that means you would start your spores like right here. Like 5, 15, 5, 10, 5, 15, something like that.
I think if I did all these things right, I think I would have beaten them.
Yeah, you would have been in a much better spot than you are, right? Because then your 4th hatch would already be finished at this point. Your bailing nest would probably already be finished, or bailing speed would already be finished.
I would not be losing all my drones.
Yeah, you could have like yeah, you wouldn't have lost your drones to the Banshees, and you could be saturating your mineral line on the 4th base right now, for example. But yeah, it's really rough right now when this happens. And yeah, during all this we didn't start our 1-1 as well, so now we're quite a bit behind on those upgrades. And so overall I would say a pretty rough early game. And yeah, around...
The game is gonna become really close. I think I did a good job at coming back if this early game was this bad that I see it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see what happens. So like right here at like the 7:30 timing, this is the timing where you would want to scout. With an Overseer or with Zerglings, whichever one is fine. Because this is the timing where you want to look for either a 4th CC, or if you can see the the extra barracks going down for an 8-Rex, right? So here we can see this game that he's going for an 8-Rex. That means that you don't necessarily want to play too greedy, right? You just want to survive his big timing that he's going to have with his 8-Rexes. Ideally, you can do big counterattacks, because he has to commit very hard when he goes to this push, right? He can't just like sit and wait. He has to actually commit in. So you can do stuff like leaving a bunch of banelings at home and base trading with the rest of your army. But in general, you just want to make sure you focus on getting a lot of Ling Bane out, especially if they're playing... Well, like they should be playing tanks when they're going 8-Rex. If they play 8-Rex mines, then you can defend pretty easily with almost anything. Just because it's very hard for them to force fights. Yeah. But in this case, you just want to get a shit ton of Ling Bane and make sure that you set up a flank, right, and crush his push. And once you crush the big push, then you're basically won the game, right? Because at that point you can just go up to like 95 drones and hive and everything, right? This game it's gonna look a little bit rough because you don't have upgrades. That's usually gonna be the biggest thing. Like he's gonna have a 2-2 timing probably, which is gonna probably do quite a bit. But yeah, we'll see. A comment on these run bys, like this time it turned out pretty well for you. But in general, it would be great if you saved this until his units get across the map, right? So...
I was thinking this is not a huge investment, and I see if he has anything at home. Like I see if his army is at home. That was my idea with it.
Ideally, if you're doing that, you would do that with like Zerglings, because then you can just start in and out, right? The banelings, like if there's units in position, the banelings are not getting back out, right? So, but in general, like I think doing these sorts of run bys are good. You just want to be doing them at the same time as something is going on. So let's say here you see his army coming, and now you can posture with your army. Let's say you had banelings already morphed at home. You could run at him, pretend that you're gonna run at him at the same time as you run in with the banelings, and then you just, after you see him sieging up, you just back out with the your army, and your banelings running into his mineral lines, and he has to either... It gets really hard for him, right? Because at that point he has to stim his units, he has to split his marines, he has to siege. At the same time he has to pull his SCVs away, right? So you create a situation that's really hard for him to execute properly. Whereas all you have to do is just move command your Banelings into his mineral line and focus on your army, just running into his army with your army. If he sieges up, then you just run away. If he doesn't siege up, you just kill everything, right?
Yes.
And we could have
And it's on
easily
creep
been
as well.
yeah, we could have easily been ready for this. So like the same thing that you did now, the same amount of clicks, just executed at the bit better timing, would have made it so much harder for him, right? So yeah, like if your run by went in right now, there's no way he's gonna look at the run by and micro this at the same time, right? And you don't need to be controlling your run bys. They're gonna do their job on their own for the most part. Like obviously you want to try to control them, but that's not your priority, right? Your priority is microing this fight properly, and he has in a situation where he has to focus really hard on both points, right?
So I thought he wouldn't commit into this because it's high ground on 3. He didn't
Yeah.
have a huge army, so I tried to just take on the rocks and then he went in.
Yeah, that was very greedy by him. So the state of this game right now is you're kind of far behind still because of the early game you didn't have the
Yeah, but
proper
I'm
drone.
getting back.
Yeah. But ideally, like this entire time, you would have been at like at least 75 drones, maybe even 80 drones. Especially like after cleaning this push up, you should be droning again now really hard. And ideally in a game when you're playing versus Atrax, you don't want to be going to Spire, especially like this sort of late Spire, because Muras is the worst composition in terms of fighting straight up, right? Which is usually what's gonna happen with when you're playing versus versus Atrax. So in this scenario, you would have to always have to base trade, and if the Terran is good, they can predict that, and they can leave like half their army at home, knowing that you don't have enough to fight the other half of his army, right? Because you're behind in upgrades or your army isn't strong enough overall. If you're ahead, you can obviously just fight it, right? But in a case like this game, it would be much better to just go for like Lingbane Queen or Lingbane Hydra. But yeah. Yeah, ideally you would have been like 80 drones long, especially since you cleaned this push up and you even killed a couple of tanks. You should be adding in more drones and getting your fifth base up.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm making army.
Yeah, you're a little bit too scared right here. But yeah, ideally already. Let's go. If we go back and look at this.
Yeah, if I didn't lose these 10 drones, I would have been like 80.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you lost 11 drones, and you would have been at least at 75, which is a much more. Like in almost every case in CVT, you want to go up to 75 drones before you deal with the first big push, right? And then after that, you can go up to like 85.
Is that the mineral saturation number?
No, it's 3-base saturation plus 10 drones on your fourth. And then you add on more later. Like if you don't have the gas, for example, then that number is almost full mineral saturation on the fourth base, which is close to what you want to go for. So if you're playing like 5 gas, full mineral saturation on the fourth, you'll have about 75 drones, right? Yeah. So like here you could have probably drawn a little bit harder than you did, but it's kind of scary because at this point you should be expecting a couple of medevacs to arrive. But yeah, if you pretend like you had a good early game, then you probably would have been at like 75 drones right now.
Yeah. Then I could have been making army.
Yeah. But yeah, so ideally right now you would well, when you see these 3 Raxes, you should realize that it's an 8 Rax, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't see these 3 Raxes, you need to like either use an overseer or use links. Check if is there a 4th command center, is there more Raxes being added on, how many Raxes does he have, stuff like that. Yes, yeah, if you had complete information with this game, you would know he's 8 Raxing you, and you just need to crush the big fight. Yeah, so it's kind of a weird move up by him, which you punish. Very nice. But yeah, like both of these bending numbers that you did kind of came in at the wrong time, right? Just they both came in when nothing else was going on. Whereas if they came in a little bit,
Somehow they worked.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but like the way it's kind of like getting insurance for your run bys. Basically, if you do them at a time where something else is going on, right? Because then you know, like at the very least, even if he does respond to this run by, he's gonna be using attention that he could have spent on the main fight, for example. So you're kind of getting insurance for your run by, right? Because you know it's always gonna cost a distraction, no matter if it does damage or not. It's always gonna cost a distraction, which can allow you to get a better fight with the main engagement, right? Or if you're doing multiple run bys at the same time, the one, if it deals with one of the run bys, it's less likely it's going to deal with the other one. Stuff like that. Okay, let's look at this.
So I cleaned the Pelions on the right, didn't have any vision on the left, and now I'm out of position.
Yeah.
But
this is
he forgot the 2-2, so I'm not in a super bad position anymore.
yeah.
I'm just behind.
This game you like you wouldn't have had 2-2 even if it was on time. The biggest problem for you is that even when you defend this, like your run bys did, to be honest, quite a bit for you right now. Like you're up in workers right now. But if you responded properly to your run bys, I think you probably should have been quite far behind in terms of economy as well at this point. But yeah, here, since you lost the tanks earlier, it should be a pretty easy cleanup for you since it's on creep, even upgrades. Ideally, it's a bit scary because you don't know there could be more tanks behind this, but you have fairly good vision of his army, so you should feel pretty confident just going into this. If you were a bit more uncertain of what he has, you would probably just set up a flank and then crush it, but in this case you can just kind of run at him.
Like I think I take this fight because I see it's all on creep.
Yeah, like you saw his entire army, so that was a good fight to take. So yeah.
Oh, he lifted all his command centers.
Yeah, if you didn't have full vision of that army, you should just set up a flank coming down from the middle ramp. And you come in behind him, and you go in with the queens first, and then you just try to crush it that way. Yeah, but again, we need to. Whenever you clean up a fight like this in CVT, and you get some momentum, you want to be droning if you're not already at your proper drone count, right? So in this case, you could easily add another 10-15 drones to your drone count, especially since your 5th base should already be up at this point anyways. So when you clean up a push like this and you have units left over, you have enough banelings, you should be droning right now. Unless you're like already at like 85-90 drones, right? Then you just make more units. So like right now you're in a very good spot. Since if you got 2-2, he doesn't have that big of an upgrade advantage anymore. You're ahead in economy. Your tech is looking pretty decent. And like, yeah, we talked about this in the last game, where you would want spores, right, in the main base.
Yeah, 2 spurs.
Yeah, so ideally, like, those spores would be the spores from the early game, right, that we made for the Banshees. We would just move those two, like, after we've dealt with the Banshees and we've secured our 4th base, then we just move the spore from the natural up to the main base, right?
Yep.
And then we have 2 spores there.
Or even get the drop.
Yeah. Yes, like, all these run-bys have been doing fine. And it's good that you're doing the run-bys. I just, try to do them at a better timing, right? Just try to...
Yeah, I just need to find my timing.
Yeah, so the best way to do it is just like look at the minimap. Whenever you see his army moving towards you, you do the run by, and then you engage his army right away after you start the run by.
Yeah,
and then
so
they should
now I
hit.
realized that I don't have any creep, so I tried to start like creeping the right side.
Yeah.
And then he comes and punish me, which is fortunate timing.
Yeah, it's fine though at this point. Your biggest problem right now, I would say, is that you're missing a little bit of larva. You won't be able to spend all your money right here. If you were spending all your money right now, now let's say like the 1.6k you have in the bank, if that was all in links out on the map right now, you would be like 180 supply or something like that, right? And then you could easily collapse in this army. And yeah.
I should take this fight at all.
Yeah, like if you had all your units, you would be fine to take this fight. But in general, whenever you're in a situation like this where you're very close to your 2-2, it would be best to just try to buy a little bit of time.
Yep.
Just chill a bit on creep, set up a flank, and then when 2-2 finishes, you engage with everything, right? Overload speed, you don't have. Yeah, overload speed would have been great to get. Usually I get it at some point after I've saturated my fourth base. I get overload speed. You can just spread a couple of overlords toward the left side of the map. If you don't have overlords or overload speed, you should spread a couple of Zerglings, because at a point like this, it's very important that you can bring everything to this fight, right? And if you have vision on the left side, then you feel secure to not leave a bunch of Lingbane over there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so in general, you should be crushing this push really easily, and you should probably be having, like, you have 85 drones now, which is fine. We just need to fix the saturation a bit. We're a bit oversaturated in natural in the fourth. But yeah, you could probably have like even like 10 more drones here. That would be fine.
So with this map, I'm having a problem taking the top two left bases, the two there.
Okay.
I don't know if I should just focus on creeping there.
Yeah, I'm mostly just focusing on creeping, but at that stage of the game, a lot of stuff should have happened already, right? Either it's like a super even game where you're trading non-stop, or you've already like secured a lead at that point, right? I would say just try to take them, and if you have vision on that side, your creep is good on that side, then it's fine, you can defend it. If he commits really hard to the right side, you have the option now to give up this right side base and move your drones to the left side, right?
Yeah.
So just get it up as soon as you can, and your vision will defend it, right? So if you're struggling to defend them, you just need better creeps, better vision on the left side. And once the game slows down, you will be doing multi-prong, right? You will be hitting them from both left and right, so that means that your army will already naturally be positioned over there. And it's also something that, since you're doing run-bys anyways from the left side, you can just have the same army that doing the run-bys defend that top left side base, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be pretty natural. Get this Liberator. Get some damage done.
Shouldn't he just go like higher drone count right here?
Yeah, his drone count is a little bit low. Like, it's not something that it's gonna cost him this game, I think, having a little bit less drones. But yeah, you could get like 10 more drones here. In general, you clean this fight up pretty good, which is nice. Now you have 2-2. You clean up this. Everything's very good. Yeah, so I think at this point, if we look at the Saber game, he's on 3 base. He's still all-inning us completely. He is getting +3 attack, but he's still extremely all-in. So all you have to do here is max out. Max out on as many banings as possible. That's just like the general rule, like if you're looking to survive. In CVT, just max out on as many banings as possible, and then the Tyrant can't really do anything to you. So yeah, like at this point you need to realize that it's 11 minutes into the game, and he doesn't have a 4th CC. Which means that he has no options whatsoever to go late game, right? All he can do is keep pushing, eventually float his main base to his 4th location, but you see, all he can do is keep pushing you, right? So if you just get to 200 supply with a lot of banelings and your creep spread gets better, then you're gonna just naturally win the game, right? So attacking into him here is probably the worst option that you have at this point. So in general in CVT, or like in any matchup, you don't want to be fighting if you're not maxed out and you have the money to be maxed out, right?
Yeah. I think this part is completely the nerves, the part where I'm attacking this game, because at this point my heart is going 500 beats a second.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would be taking this fight in a normal game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also something that's adrenaline and stuff like that. That's something that you'll get used to dealing with over time. But yeah, in general, like in this game, if you just stay defensive and creep, you could potentially like try to base trade when he moves out. That would be another option. But you don't want to be giving him fights off creep. Either you keep everything at home when you fight him, like right now you would go in with everything, right? And just crush this army. Option number 2 would be to leave your banelings at home and base trade with your Mutaling, right? But in both scenarios, we're not fighting his army on off creep. So yeah. Yeah, ideally just better saturation here. You have too many drones in the 4th base, too many drones in the natural, no drones at the 5th. Just making sure that we're maxed out. That's like the number one thing you should focus on in like all of these games. Like all your games when you're playing versus Terran. It's just try to stay maxed out the entire time. Only fight when you're maxed out. Like that's the control. Especially if you're fighting off creep, then like you should never be fighting off creep if you're not maxed out. If you have the money for it, right? With money in the bank.
Looking at this position, I don't know how he turns this game. So,
well, like
Oh.
right here, you're fighting off creep, right? And again, we're
2 seconds after I said it.
yeah. Yeah, so like right now you're in an amazing position, even though you're not quite spending your money and you're not mining properly. You're in a good position. You're gonna defend this. And here, this chasing a little bit is fine. But here we wanna be pulling back with everything. As soon as the Benny goes back to me, just go back to it's probably just a mistake. Yeah, so here we should probably just be running away.
Yeah, try to save my mute to save.
Yeah, like after you get a good fight like this, just go home, remax, get your baiting count up again, and then take another fight, right? You're always gonna take a better fight than if you just keep chasing like this. That being said, though, like you should definitely keep chasing while you can. You just have to kind of look at it and judge by situation, right? Like you can keep chasing here, that's good, but your Banis go home here, which is a mistake, right? If your Banis kept going, you could have tried to target down some medivacs with your Mutas. And then as soon as his reinforcements start showing up, then you can just go back, right? So here it would have been good. You kept chasing, and then as soon as his reinforcements came, you pulled back. So everything is a little bit cleaner, and that would have still been good for you. And you should also think of it as whenever you win a fight like this, is what you bought yourself was map control, right? Now your army is stronger. He can't move out. So what can you do with this? You can creep spread. There's no way he can deny your creep spread now, so that's what you should be doing. You should be creep spreading. You should be fixing your saturation. You should be droning. You should be taking more bases. And then you can just rebuild your army, right? And set up for the next big fight. Instead, we end up taking this questionable fights of creep, and because we're doing that, we're too busy to see this liberator, and we lose a bunch of drones. And now all of a sudden, a game that looked unlosable like a minute ago now looks very rough for us, right?
Well, very rough. Oh, but yeah, rough.
Yeah, like at this point you're mining less than him, or same as him, and he has slightly better upgrades, and your army supply is about even, right? And we don't really have much creep spread. So like if you go back to, let's see, like right here, this army is this game is looking very, very good for us right now, right?
Yeah.
And even after this fight, it's gonna look even better. Like right here, it's looking very good for us. But yeah, then this fighting of creep, it's not very good.
I was almost even and losses, and then I got 6,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we fight a bit again of creep. Like right now, all this stuff we're doing of creep, instead of focusing on that, we could just focused on creep spreading our money, getting our bank count back up, and then we're in a great spot, right? You end up winning this fight, and like still, like right now, you're still definitely in this game. The biggest problem is just like you've not been fixing your saturation, so that's something you have to get into the habit of. It's like every time you're injecting your bases, you just get into the habit of looking for your saturation, right? Because that you're looking at the bases anyways, so you don't need to waste any time. You just inject, you look at the minerals, you see that you have too many drones, you just pull those drones away to a new base. Yeah. And again, we're kind of fighting off creep here unnecessarily, where we should just be focusing on our macro and our creep split for the most part. We could be setting up for a run by, that would be fine.
Yeah.
So like right here, you're not really far enough ahead to do these kinds of moves. Well, you're kind of far ahead, but if everything in else in the game was super clean, and let's say that you're like 180 supply right now after crushing his army, then for 100%
that
for sure you should just run across the map and kill him. But everything has been so scrappy and we've lost so much over the last couple of minutes that we need to be a bit efficient again, right? We need to establish our economy, we need to get our army back up before we can start thinking about being aggressive again.
Yeah, I'm droning again.
Yeah.
Losing so many drones. But this should still be... Like, he's mining like as much as he did before, because his mazes are mining out now. Oh,
Yeah.
we also got
But the
that.
same is true for you, right? And you're not really mining from your third base properly right now. You would also really like to have the top left bases at this point. Yeah. Yeah, so still we're just being aggressive in general, like we're just being aggressive off creep when we really shouldn't be, right? So like as a general rule, don't fight off creep unless you just completely crush the Terran army and you're just remaxed right away afterwards. Or like you spent all your money at least. If you completely crush an army and you've spent all your money, then you can considering doing these moves. But in the point where the game is even and you're not maxed out, you just want to be chilling, spreading creep spread. You can harass, like this with the mutas, that's really good. You can be doing round buys at the same time as you're harassing with the mutas, that's also good. You can be setting up for round buys. But mostly you should just be focusing on setting up your own side of the map, right? Spreading your creep, getting your injects, setting up your new bases, getting map vision where you need it, splitting your army if you need to deal with drops, stuff like that, right? So like instead of doing that, we're focusing so much on doing these aggressive moves. And while we're getting some damage done, sure, we're also trading pretty poorly, right? Which is almost always, if both of you control really well, you're always going to be trading worse off creep than on creep, right? So we want to avoid doing that unless we're already in a position where we're ahead, right?
Oh no, I see this coming.
Yeah.
That with him.
Yeah, and also, well, like to be honest, in this case when he has this many marines, like if you look at his army size, he doesn't have any SCVs left.
Yeah, I can just go full bane.
Yeah, the problem is that you don't really have enough money for it, right? You're kind of broke at this point. And we don't really have any mutas either, and if there's no mutas, then our composition is just pure Ling Bane, which is at this point of the game when it's 3-3 versus 3-3 with Biomine, usually isn't the best anymore, right? Especially since we don't have enough creep. But yeah, looks like you're gonna hold on for a while.
Yeah, this is where the game starts snowballing.
Yeah. Yeah, so like imagine like at this point, even now, if you just had one hatchery on the left side, you could just sack this base, put all your drones, remake your banings, and then you still win the game, I think.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you just get these hatcheries up, even if you're not looking to use the bases right away. Just having the option of sacking a base on the right side is very good, right? And it's something we definitely could have done earlier when we were floating a bit of minerals. Very important that you, you make the overseer as fast as possible, because you don't want to give the mines a chance to shoot twice. Yeah. Oh yeah, we don't have overspeed. That's also a huge thing. So like overspeed is massive in these scenarios. And again, like, yeah, we're thinking a little bit too much about being aggressive as well. I don't think it felt like this entire game you were not quite realizing the position you were in. So instead of being defensive, you were constantly trying to push him, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, at this point, it's...
Yeah. At this point, when the mines are trying to shoot multiple times, it's just so efficient, right? That it's still a very close game.
Yeah, I'm still very proud of the game.
Yeah, like
This is
you're
800 MMR difference.
like you're doing a lot of good stuff. Like doing the roundwise is good. You just need to do them at a better time. Your macro is decent. Your creep spread is decent. You just need to not be so eager to fight off creep. Like there are definitely points where you want to fight off creep. Don't get me wrong, but it needs to be like when you're already ahead, right? And it's usually like if you're not sure if you're ahead or not, it's usually better to just stay defensive and focusing on your creep spread. Because when he tries to deny your creep spread, then you can fight him in a better location than if you just run at him, right?
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do anything about your creep spread, then you can just get creep on the entire map, and then you'll have creep spread outside of his bases, and then it's very easy for you to attack wherever you want, right? So instead of going off creep and trying to force fights, let the creep spread force the fights for you, and just you set up to fight as well as possible. Yep. Keep trading. But yeah, at this point it's very rough when you're down this much and units lost. GG. Yeah, not a bad game. Okay.
See it, Oracle.
Yes, the Oracle first. Yeah, you can get double spore here. I think it would be way better to just start queens, like one queen instead. So like you start one spore in the main and start another queen instead of the second spore.
Yeah.
Already I feel like your fourth queen is a little bit late though. Let's see what happens here. So you should be droning. Yeah, so right here you should be starting your fourth queen already. Yeah, so your fourth queen should be starting. And then you should start a spore and then one more queen. So you should have 2 queens in production right now. Instead of this second spore that you're making.
Yeah.
And then you just keep 2 queens in the natural until you would have 2 queens in production right now, right? And then you would have 5 queens. And that way, when those 2 finish, you can have 2 queens in the natural, 2 queens in the third, 1 spore in the main, right?
Yeah.
1 spore, 1 queen in the main. And like the spore doesn't have to be in the main. The spore can be whatever, but I think just starting off with 1 spore is good enough. And then at this timing at like 4:05 something like that, you add in the like around 4 minutes. It's fine. You add in the extra spores, right? Because soon 2 oracles could show up, and if 2 oracles show up, you need more than 2 queens, right, to defend. So at this point, you could add 2 more spores, like 1 in the natural, 1 in the third base, and put 2 queens and 1 spore in the main, 2 queens, 1 spore in the third, in the natural, and so on.
Yeah. With the energy of the queens at the third, I just inject, right? Like just like I did.
Yeah, just inject. That's fine. Just spend your energy. Creep tumors and inject. There's no need to save for transfusions or anything right now.
Yeah, I'm more thinking like, should I make a tumor here?
You have 3 tumors over here. Let's see how you did your first tumors first. Okay. This is fine. I think I would just not do another tumor here. Or if I did one, I would do it towards the main base. Like I would put it here.
Yeah.
If I was doing one more. So like this tumor that you're putting right now with this queen should probably not be put there. It should probably be put as an inject right away on the third base, and then you make the tumor with this queen right now.
Yeah, like this queen goes into the main.
Yeah, like or like because we mentioned your fourth queen was a bit late, right? So if you had the fourth and fifth queens earlier, they can do the tumor to the main base, then with one of those, and that's fine. So this inject should have been a tumor, and this tumor over here should have been an inject in the third hatch.
All right.
Okay, let's see what you scouted. Yeah, you saw the double oracle. You're scouting with Zerglings, which is good.
Yeah, I usually split them here, but like I think The Tusk can also just send 2 adepts over the map with the oracles.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think I should like, stay back, right? Or like send one at a time.
Yeah, like you wanna have at least like I would say like 6 Zerglings at home, and then send out the rest. And if you see the adept on whose side of the map, then you can send out everything, right? But in general, just and for example, like in this game, you already saw that he was going double star or double oracle right from one Stargate, so you don't really need to have a Zergling all the way over here because you already have queens in position anyway, or should have queens in position anyways, right?
Yeah.
And you can have Overlord spread to check for that. You don't really need to have a spotter right here. It would more be so if there was no third base going down, you would need this link because it could be a potential Archon drop follow up, right? And you want to check for the prism. But in general, you don't need to. When you see fast third and you see the Stargate, you don't need to be spreading too much. Okay, so let's see. Like right now, your queen positioning is a little bit off. Let's have a look at that. So there's no need to have 4 queens in the third right now. So you always want to make sure that you have at least 1 spore, 1 queen in every base at all times.
Yeah, this is another one where I think I have to get more used to using 2 hotkeys for queens.
Yeah, or
So
just
normally I just pull all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And or just delay moving hotkeying this 1 queen from the natural. Because right now, like you have 2 queens in the third base, you're about to have a third, and it's enough to fight 2 oracles, right? But you only have 1 anti-air unit in the natural. And the angle that it comes from is almost always the angle that the oracles come from to the third base, especially when you're taking the third that you're taking. If you're taking this linear third, I think your spore in the natural should be placed a bit closer to the ramp, like a little bit up.
Yeah.
It's because if like the oracle is not likely to come into your natural from the third base angle, right? Because that angle is already covered by queens. It's more likely to come from the open angle, which is from the top. But yeah, you know, just always make sure you have at least 2 anti-air units in each base. So here we lose some drones.
Yeah, but with the scouting, I see that like I see the timing of the third, and like he's doing oracle stuff.
Yeah.
So I should be safe to go like 66 no matter what, right?
Yeah, we 66 drones no matter what, and then you keep poking with Zerglings to decide on if you can add on more after that, right? Like when you see this much, like the only thing that you need to be concerned about at all in terms of making units is if he's doing like a glaive follow up, right? Like a 3-gate glaive, no robo kind of follow up. That's the only thing you need to concern yourself about safety wise. But you can just easily scout for that with just having Zerglings poking around, right? And as long as you have your Roachworn on time, you can just reactively make roaches when you see him moving out with the adepts, right? So yeah, here you're more or less free to just drone as long as you're scouting for that adept move out and you have the Roachworn. There's nothing stopping you from just going to 66 drones here.
Yeah, and I sometimes make the mistake. So like, I think I'm a bit too like inactive with my links scouting.
Yeah,
because like sometimes they do for these like, what is it? Sell it Archon Island. Like after it's 66 Pro something.
Yeah.
And I usually tend to lose to that because I'm not scouting what they're making at the third or like how many gates they have.
Yeah. Though usually if you're going roaches, those builds should be fairly easy to hold. You can hold them at like 80 drones if you're going roaches.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But sometimes I go like 88 and I'm blind because like so I see a fourth and stuff and I'm just a bit confused.
Yeah. So what you need to do is to scout for if they're making Archons blind, like if they're making Archons at home and you're not attacking them, that means that they're going to be looking to attack you, right? Because if they were just planning on sitting there, they would not be making Archons. The Archons they would make later on. They would make High Templars first, or if they're going for like an Immortal Churchill Archon for a composition or something like that, they would make the Immortals and save the gas for the Archons later. But as soon as you see them morphing Archons at home and they don't have Storm, then you can be pretty sure that they're gonna go for a move out, right? So that's just the main way you scout for that. And yeah, in general, just being inactive with Zergling is something that's really hard to do. Like, that's really something that sets apart like the best Zergs from the Zergs below them, right?
Yeah, I get that. I get that now.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you look at Sarah and Rainer, for example, they're super good about their Zerglings. They're constantly active with them and scouting, and yeah, just super active with them. Whereas like even me, like I struggle a lot with being active enough with my Zerglings, and like that's usually what determines how safe you are. But that's just something that you're gonna have to improve upon, right? It's just a mechanical thing, being active with them and having the mechanics to do your macro and execute your build order properly behind it, right? And that's something that you get better with over time. Okay. Yeah, so we're kind of making overlords here, and also this 6th queen I think is a little bit too early because we're kind of floating larva, right?
Yeah.
So especially in the early game here, you want to make sure that you start your queens. Like the first 4 queens are always going to come at the same timing, basically. Maybe even the first 5, but in the end of the first 4 are going to come at the same timing. But after that, you want to make sure that you spend your larva into drones before you make any more queens, right? So like right here, before you start any more queens, like before you started this queen in the 3rd base even, I would make sure that I spent all my larva into drones, right? We're also overmining gas quite a bit. Let's see why that is. Okay.
I might have just put them too early on it.
Yeah, these 2 drones that you're running to the gas start now is way too early.
Yeah, way too.
So this is gonna hurt your mineral income by quite a bit.
So I usually saturate it when I get my lair, and then I get a second geyser. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the proper way to do it. So like just as soon as you've saturated 16 on minerals in the natural, then you can go back into get to the gas. And that usually ends up being around the same time. You can do it even later. Like you just want to make sure that you have like around 100 gas around 4 minutes, because that's like the earliest time you would want to get a lair, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you have 100 gas around this timing, which you're gonna have with just one drone constantly mining after link speed, it's completely fine. So yeah, just saturate back into gas when you're starting your lair and get your second gas at the same time, and that will be good enough. So yeah, you're missing quite a bit of minerals right now, right? Because we overmade some overlords. We saturated the gas way too early. We lost some drones. But yeah, the most important thing here is just that you're spending your larva into drones, and then after that, the next priority is making queens, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so we're a little bit behind, for sure.
Yeah. I do think my tack is a bit late this game. Like... Yeah, I'm beginning to remember this game a bit.
Yeah, so yeah, like your lair was a little bit late initially, just a little bit, but that's fine. That's something that happened. That's usually something that if I have a bad early game, I usually get my lair a little bit later, just because I have to cut something to afford my drones and afford my queens, right? And usually I end up delaying my lair a little bit. But here you should already know what you want to go into, right? Here you should already be starting your infestation pit or your hydro den or whatever you're going into, right? You should already be starting it right away with your lair. So in this case, you know you're not playing versus Void Race, or you should know at least, since you saw him morphing in sentries, you saw double Oracle, you still have the Overlord at the back here, so you could have double confirmed that there was no more Stargate units coming. So in this case, I would probably just get an infestation pit. There's no real need to make a Hydro Den if you're not playing versus Void Race, right? Or Phoenix or anything like that. So yeah, you should be droning, what you're doing. And yeah, you're starting your infestation pit right away. And then if you want to play Stormwolves from there, that's fine. Stormwolves will be really good. Right here.
Yeah.
Or you could just go Hive for Lurkers, right? That's also viable. Either way.
Yeah, I've also been doing like Hydraulic Bane timings.
Yeah, I would say in general, Hydraulic Bane timings are only really good versus 2-star Target Void Ray. They can work versus other stuff as well. It's just the Hydra Bane timings are usually the strongest when they have either no storm or the storm just finished, but they don't have a lot of Archons yet. Those are like the two timings where Hydra Banes are strong. And usually if they're going like 2 Archons into ground, they'll have both Archon and Storm by the time you can hit any sort of timing, right? And on the other side, if they're attacking into you, like they're doing this 8, 9, 10 gate charge out Archon stuff, Hydras are a lot weaker at defending that compared to just roaches, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. He has 5 gates, going up to 9, I think. Yeah, 9 gates. 4th. So yeah, like in this case, you could have made an overseer a lot earlier, right, behind this mineral main scout. But here you see it anyways. Let's see what you saw with this overseer. Okay, so right away when you come in here, you see that it's getting a storm, right? And yeah, you went up to 80 drones, which is fine. Yeah, like again, like I think just getting the higher than is a bit not needed right now. Much better to just get your hive faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is where my attack was really late. Like I said.
So like yeah, when you see the storm coming, you need to be like, because if you want to do any sort of like Roach Hydra timing, it has to hit before storm, because storm just it just destroys any sort of Roach Hydra or splash damage in general. Just kind of destroys any sort of Roach Hydra timings. So as soon as you see storm, you need to be either already on the way to hive, or if you're not already on the way to hive, you need to be going there right away when you see the storm upgrade being researched. So let's see.
Yeah, I finally make the infestation build, but it's a bit late. Could be sooner.
Yeah, it's you could have gone way earlier for sure. Yeah, you keep scouting. You know it's going into at least some sort of later game. So like the danger right now for you is that he is gonna have a really scary 200 army before you have anything that's really good against the ground, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make lurkers, you need to have your hive upgrades for that, which is really far away right now. And yeah, you don't want to be forced to making too many Roach Ravager in general. So like in a dream scenario where nothing happens, we would want to get to Hydra Lurker Viper with as little Roach Ravager as possible, right? Depending on how aggressive he is. So here, the later we get to that composition, the more Roach Ravager we're gonna be forced to make, right, to stay alive. Which is not necessarily what we want at this point. Yeah, so we're going into this game from a little bit behind, for sure. But yeah, he's bringing up the multi-prong, and he's not really attacking, he's just turtling, so it doesn't end up being too bad for you.
Yeah.
You get some lurkers out. Yeah, you lose your Ravagers, but at this point, like, losing your Ravagers is kind of what you want. You don't want them anymore. But ideally, like, in a game like this, you could have just not made them, right? Because he was never really threatening you at all. So you have to think at the Roach Ravager as a unit that you want to make to stay alive and to secure your into the late game. And you want to be playing very greedy behind them because you don't want to be making them for too long, right? Unless you're just all-inning, but that's different, right? So in a game like this, where he's super passive and not putting any pressure on you, he's going storm into sky or into fast transition into sky toss. You could probably just have skipped making the Ravagers overall. Just have like enough roaches to be safe, and then make Ravagers if he actually moves out, right?
Yeah. So we go like 90 something drones.
Yeah. So your lurk count is fine, but yeah, you should be splitting them up on both sides of the map, which you're kind of doing right now.
Yeah, and again my upgrades are just really late.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I just try to get concave to push him out.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem right now is you kind of... you're doing okay, I think. Everything is fine right now. Ideally, you would be the one putting pressure on him right now, not the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So, at this point, like, if you have a decent drone count and you have some minerals to spare, it's not a bad idea to add like some links with these round buys. And whenever you're doing multi-prone like this with lurkers, you need to always be aware of where his army is, right? So the whole idea is that you're attacking him where his army is not. You don't actually want to get cornered and lose these units, right? Because you don't want to be remaking these lurkers. They should stay alive the entire time. So, if you don't know where his army is, it's usually better to just pull back and move forward on the other side. Let's say you were advancing with the lurkers on the left side right now, and you see no army there. Then it's very easy to assume that he's going to the right side with his army, right? And then you can pull back here, you advance on the left side. And on the other side, if you do run into his army, then you know he's not on the right side, then you can continue with your aggression on the right side, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, we don't want to get caught like this and lose our units. We want to try to avoid his army, because we don't want to remake these guys, right?
Yeah.
So like now you advance on the left side. Yeah, you should bring some lurkers with this. Yeah, if you run away, that's good. And now, if you kept your lurkers alive on the right side, you could be advancing with those lurkers again now, right? Let's imagine you pull those lurker back, and now you see his army going to the left side. Okay, now you can go forward again on the right side, right?
Yeah, that would have just killed the space here.
Yeah, or at least you force him to rotate back again, which makes it so you can go like it's a constant back and forth, right? Where you're just poking him wherever he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole idea is just like eventually you'll force him to attack into your spores, and that's what you want, right? So you wanna. I think these broodlords are pretty unnecessary at this point. Way too early.
Early.
Yeah, there's actually no need to make broodlords when you already have lurkers. They kind of do the exact same thing, and they both. Yeah. Like they do the exact same thing, except the broodlords are just slower. I think in the super late game you can add some broodlords. That's fine. But for this scenario right now, just sticking on lurkers would be completely fine.
Oh, I'm just used to him always countering my army.
Yeah, well, like, it doesn't really matter. He can't really counter if your army is just like lurker, viper, corruptor. There's no real straight up counter to that.
Yeah.
So just keeping the corruptors in corruptor form and adding in some vipers is all you need to do here. Because you want to have like 6 lurkers on this side, 6 lurkers on this side, and then you're just constantly multi-progging him, and your viper corruptor army should be on the side that his area army is on, right?
Yeah.
So if he ever attacks into a spore line, you're there with your corruptor. You have corruptor, lurker, viper there, and you're engaging on the other side of the map with Ling, lurker, hydra.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yes, right now you could be poking this left side for sure. And again, you don't really want to be like losing units for free like this. You don't want to be forcing trades too much. So
yeah,
keeping these hydras alive is perfectly fine. All you want to do is just force a reaction from him. He's moving his army over here. Now we should be pushing him on the right side. So yeah, that's like the entire goal here in the late game, is just poking at him wherever he's not, until he feels like he's forced to attack into your spores, and that's when you can get good fights, right?
Yeah, and I can also see I'm on a way lower drone count than I could be on.
Would it be viable to take the top left base and saturating drones from the like 3rd or 5th there, so you mine out his minerals?
Yeah, I was just about to say that when a game is going on like this, where you have all the map control, like you're pulling him back and forth, he's just responding to you, you should definitely be taking the top left bases and pulling drones from your main and natural and 3rd base over there, and just leave 1 drone per gas, leave 1 drone or like 2 drones per mineral line, and pull the rest to the forward bases to mine those out as fast as possible. Because that puts a timer on him, right? That makes him so he has to come out from his static defense. Because the general rule in this late game scenario is that you never want to fight into his static defense, right? So you want to create a situation where he has to come away and attack into you, because that's when you're going to be able to take good fights. So the way you can do that is either by multi-pronging so much that he runs low on money and he feels like he's forced to move out, or you take his bases, which forces him to, if he wants to clear the left side bases, he has to bring his army over there, right? And that exposes his right side base. So you want to be constantly pulling his army out of position, attacking where he's not, and if you ever fight him, you want it to be when he is attacking into you, right? when into a spore line. That's when you want to be fighting. Or in general, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a spore line. You just want it to be away from his shield batteries and cannons, right?
Yeah. But so, I'm kind of doing the like same idea of like multi-prong, but I just have broodlords.
Yeah, the biggest problem here is that you don't have an anti-air army. Only 13 corruptors with no vipers. You really need a couple of vipers here, more corruptors, and the broodlord is such a supply-heavy unit as well. At this point, you don't really want to have this many. And like, look at how his ground army, what he has. He has 5 Templar and 2 Immortals. You have 12 broodlords to counter that. Like, you can do the job with like half that number, right?
Yeah, I was trying to just get rid of my lurkers.
Yeah.
Like, I needed supply quick.
Yeah. In general, you don't really you shouldn't be worrying too much about this ground when you have lurkers already. Like, the lurkers will deal with anything on the ground fine. If anything, you could consider to add in ultras here, just to be able to kill the Templars. And broodlords is something like you can make it in the super late game when you want to like kill a base that's very fortified and his army is way out of position. Or if he's like starts warping in a shit ton of Archons, right? That's when they can become good. But for now, you would be completely fine with no broodlords, just Corruptor Viper Lurker or Corruptor Viper Ultra. Either will be fine. Yeah, the biggest problem is just that you don't have enough to actually engage his air army.
Yeah, no Vipers.
Yeah. And again, we don't really want to be just like throwing away units like this in the late game here. We want to be pulling him out of position and trading them away slowly, right? One by one, where we're like pushing him and we're running away and we lose a unit here and there. That's fine. But we don't want to be running in and like, here, kill my units while I try to kill as many probes as possible. That's not what we want to go for at this point.
Yeah.
Because at this point the game is all about efficiency, right?
Yeah, and you can see that in my minerals. And I try to spam spores to get enough supply.
Yeah.
And I'm just using up all of my minerals.
Yeah, so you're like going for like one big, really strong army, and like this is the kind of army you want at the very end of the game when the map is mined out, when you're going down for the big final fight, right? Then you want this kind of army. But for now, like we talked about, you just want to be multi-pronging, trying to force him to attack into spores, and that way you're gonna get good fights. Yeah, out mining him. That should be your goal. And then like once you've mined out the map, then you can go for this army. Like once you've no need for your drones anymore, then you can go for this kind of army, right?
Yeah.
But right now you should have kept your ground army alive, and it should be doing work on the left side. Like, he shouldn't be allowed to take the space like this without rotating his army up there. And if you rotate his army up there, then it leaves the right side base open to attack, right? You can start poking at it with lurkers and stuff like that.
I think it's actually fine this game. Like, I somehow take a really good hit. Yeah. Now, I wanted to know what you think of this move up here.
Well, it's kind of the same concept as I've been talking about, just having, but instead of like having Lurker Hydra Ling, you have Corruptor Queen, which is kind of interesting. But, like, it's the same concept, right? It's just different units. So I think this is something that's fine. You should be doing this stuff the entire game, but maybe not with this these units.
Yeah.
So it's all good. But yeah, you know, like if he was,
here, though.
Yeah, yeah, like in general, yeah, he has Tempest. So at this point, like, your army should be pretty much invalid to be anywhere near his base here, because his Tempest should be shooting you right now. He can just recall back with the mothership if he needs to. But yeah, like whenever this sort of stuff is happening, you can't just run into him, right? Because there's shield batteries, there's storm. There should be a couple of Archons underneath here as well. So here he should be able to just kill off your broodlords for free with Tempest, basically.
Yeah.
In this scenario, so like this is what we wanted. Why we want to avoid these kinds of situations. We want to just doing the multi-prong and forcing him away from the static. But here he kind of messes up his mothership. Now he has no recall, and he's not feedbacking your Vipers.
Yeah, and then I go in with like all of my investors. Without like, I should rather like take 2 at a time or something.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. At this point, he doesn't have enough storm to kill your corruptors, and there's no Archon, so you're just free to go on top of him like this. There's also no Void Ray, so there's actually nothing that kills corruptors in this army, especially because you did the Parabomb dive move, and his storm on top of it. So like all the interceptors are about to disappear. He has 65 right now. He's gonna have 0 in like a couple of seconds. See 45, 30,
yeah, wow.
20.
Oh, that drop.
Yeah, so like he needs something to deal with corruptors, but like if he had a proper army, like this sort of move shouldn't work. But you did it pretty well. You made sure the Templar died, or you got rid of most of the Templars, and then you just dive on top of them like that. That's the way you want to do it. If you had Void Rays, you would want to throw Fungals and Parabombs in the Void Rays before you dive in like that. To thin out the numbers. But yeah, here you get a really good fight. But to be honest, I feel like you're still winning because you really have nothing to deal with these Stalker Warpins.
Yeah, I realized, so I cancel my corruptors and I make Ultras. And like, just try to rush out.
Yeah, let's see. But yeah, he's actually like gonna be. You're even on bases right now.
Yeah, and I think he wasted too much time killing spores.
I think he's actually still completely fine in this game because he's traded like even overall, right?
Yeah.
So I think if he just just wait for his army to get out, get his mortals out, get the last carriers out, I think he should be completely fine. Yeah. Kind of attacking at the right time.
Yeah, but I get this good fight.
Yeah.
And then I can just win again.
Yeah, like your control seems pretty good to be honest in these fights. You're controlling it pretty well.
Yeah, I've been practicing my late game a lot.
Yeah. So I think as long as you like this kind of things can work just because you're controlling it very well. But I think in general you want to be doing more the multiprong stuff, and you're still going to be using this control because you're still going to be fighting them. You should just be fighting them in a different way, right? You should not be attacking into them. They should be attacking into you. You should be forcing fights away from his static defense. But yeah, you will still want to do it the same way, right? Where you're zoning out his Templars, and then you go for the dive on top of the carriers, as long as there's no Archons or Void Rays.
Yeah, but like I was way too aggressive this game. Taking bad fights and not like trying to line up enough.
Yeah, I don't think you were too aggressive, just you need to do more multi-prong and more of like not actually giving him the fight when he comes looking for it, you know, like run away until he attacks into you, then you can take the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise not bad.
Yeah.
GG. So yeah, like you already made a mistake by letting you get the natural down, right? So you're already slightly ahead. But yeah, like I talked about, don't let him hit your Zerglings here. Just because, like, you don't want to be remaking these Zerglings, right?
No, and I do it, which is a mistake.
Yeah, so ideally, like I talked about, at this level, at like below GM, you can just make 8 Zerglings, hit this gateway a little bit, don't let him hit your Zerglings, and then go home, and you're gonna be ahead most of the time because he's gonna overreact and mess up his macro behind us, right? But here, like, you already let him hit a bunch of times for free on this. And here you get this round, which is really good for you, obviously. Now you want to fight. Now you want to give him the fight. But if, like, let's say you lose these Zerglings without actually killing the Zealots, then it's suddenly really bad for you, right? Because now he can counterattack and he can force out a bunch of... yeah, exactly. So here you should just be droning non-stop. It's very important that you hit your macro behind this. So, like, you should... it's more important that your macro is clean behind it so that you kill this Zealot, right?
Yeah, it is.
So that's what you should be focusing on. Starting your second queen, injecting, making drones. Yeah, like, making more Zerglings here is something you should never do. Especially since you're actually doing good damage now. Like, you killed 2 Zealots already. You're forcing him to make the ugliest wall of all time. There's no Nexus started, there's no tech started. And the Adept is actually quite far away, right? So here you kind of have to use your game sense to judge how long you can stay. You want to get out before this Adept finishes, but you know, you're gonna have to try your way forward on that, right? This is something you have to do on feeling.
the only thing I'm a little bit unsure is to when to start the gas, but I think I figured it out, and it's pretty much when the first drone finishes at the natural. Is that a good timing?
Yeah, like I would say basically any time between like 2:30 and 3 minutes. Like all the pro Zergs do it kind of differently, a different timing, but like yeah, between 2:30 and 3 minutes. That's fine. So yeah, like here you overset a bit, but like to be honest, even after losing all this stuff, if you wouldn't have made these extra Zerglings at home that you did, you would have been really far ahead right now.
So
and yeah, third queen should start basically right away. So like your second queen should start right away after the first queen, and then third queen right away when the natural finishes, right?
Yeah.
And other than that, you should just be droning non-stop. This hatchery is way too early because you want to be
making
drones first. Yeah, so you just spend your larva first, and then take this hatchery when you have the money for it after spending your larva into drones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a response I've seen as well on my level versus Trollpool, and I'm not actually 100% sure what the correct...
Like, I don't know what army composition or whatever to get.
Yeah.
True.
I think...
So I get completely caught off guard, and I'm just so confused, so I lose a bunch of drones.
Yeah.
But I just want to know the composition. Because I know this, I did this wrong. But
so the first thing that you need to do is to remember that the probe that scouted never came home, right?
Yeah.
And you know that because your links was there the entire time, your overload is here. You know that probe didn't come home. So as soon as the attack is over, you need to be using the links that you hopefully kept alive to look a bit for the probe. It could be over here, it could be down here, but you need to be searching for it, right, all over the place. And then once you see this, I think what the correct response is in theory is to spread creep forward as fast as possible. Make spines.
Yeah.
In your natural, not too far forward. The whole idea with spreading creep is so that you can't make batteries close to your base, right?
Yeah. So spines,
creep, and then I think once the spines are up, you can probably do whatever you want. I think maybe just going into Ravagers might be the best. Like you can make a lot of drones behind it as well. Just get the spines up as long as you get your tumor down, so that he can't build batteries close to your base. Then you're fine, I think, because if he gets to build batteries close to your base, then the spines are gonna be useless, right? Because he's just gonna regen and fight the spines. So you need to have creep spreads that forces the batteries to be far away, spines close to your hatchery, and then you can make a lot of drones behind that. And I think in theory you should probably go into the Ravagers, but this is something I haven't actually, because I lost this a bunch of time myself on the ladder, and I'm not 100% sure what the correct response is. But I think first off, if you scouted a bit earlier, you can do stuff to try to deny it.
Yeah.
And yeah, second, I think just droning, making spines, and then going into probably Ravagers behind it. But you could also just go like Queen Link probably.
So I want mass speed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pressure, very pressured.
Yeah, I think I can't really give you like this is what you should do kind of answer. I think just the initial thing with just creep spread and spines, and then from there I think you have some room to experiment with either mass speeding Queen or Ravager. Maybe you could even try something like a Nidus to the other side of the map, but that's a little bit risky in case he finds it. Because you want to keep making spines, but you want to have like 4 or 5 spines at least, I think, with queens behind it. So yeah, you definitely want to keep droning this entire time until the spines come up, and then you want to start making units, because he has a nexus behind it too, right? So yeah, let's see what happens here.
Now I am just so confused, so I use a bunch of drones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to adjust on the fly when you're playing with something for the first time, right? And
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty strong build, to be honest. It's a pretty strong response, I think. But yeah, definitely you don't want the third hatch. you want to just make queens and spines initially, and then I think going into Ravagers, but potentially just Mass Link could be fine as well. Because like when he's right here, away from the batteries, if you let's say had just Mass Link right now, you could just surround him, right? And he can't get back to his batteries. So I think the vital part is scouting it early enough, having creep spread out, and the spines, and then I don't think it matters super much what you do behind it. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It's something I have to experiment with myself.
I mean, it's kind of if I go for an early Evo or the Geyser, it's kind of easy to defend, I think.
Yeah.
I think that trade was pretty good, but I'm just so low draw versus batteries.
Yeah.
The spines creep and some speedlings, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and like potentially Ravagers as well. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure, but I think if the creep is, like let's say you had like one more tumor out, even further out, then the batteries would be super far away. And then I think it should be a pretty easy hold with no matter what units you go. But yeah. Yeah, obviously you can't fight into the batteries, right? So yeah. Yeah, at this point it's looking pretty rough. Yeah. Yeah, GG. Alright. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Any last questions for today?
No, not really. Maybe.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Alright, cool.
Maybe, yeah. Bye.
Yeah, I'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.